those indications in chapter 12, how you can see how close you are to something that Arjuna, of course, in another time, got in like, he was getting it in 35 minutes, 40 minutes, he understood it. But for us, it's a lifetime of progress. So if we start off, if we just go to the first verse, okay? If we just go look at that first verse, verse 1.1, because it's a verse that's very elusive in the Bhagavad Gita. So there's three levels of reading this verse. The first way to read it is it's just the opening of the Bhagavad Gita. It's not very important, Sanjaya has been given the vision by Vyasa to understand what's going on in the battlefield. And Vyasa, of course, indirectly is an incarnation of Krishna. Yeah. So Dhritarashtra says, "O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra desired to fight, what do they do?" Yeah. So the orthodox way of looking at this is that Dhritarashtra is now able to see what's going on in the battlefield, and he wants to know, because he's a little bit afraid, because this is called Dharmashetra, Kurukshetra, right? The second line in Sanskrit, you see that. So it's a holy place. It's a place that he's concerned about the influence, because he sees Pandavas as being this kind of slightly spiritual people, and he's worried that his sons are going to be slightly at disadvantage because of Dharmashetra, Kurukshetra. Dharmashetra, Kurukshetra, of course, is where Dharma itself is protected. Right? But then is the bigger, third, deeper level of this verse. And this is the one that you need to kind of get hold to grips with. It explains why they've ended up on the battlefield. Okay? So he says, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the battlefield. What he should have said, if according to Dharma, is after my sons assembled on the battlefield, what do they do? Because he made a distinction, a false bodily distinction, between his sons and the sons of Pandu. And that is a clue of why, what is going to happen in the Bhagavad Gita, and why ultimately he's going to lose this war. Because he's not understanding that they're not the bodies, they're not the sons, and that they're not even his sons, they don't even belong to him, as the Bhagavad Gita will unravel. And nor should he ever be thinking that the sons of Pandu are his sons are different. In fact, in true Vaishnava spirit, children, everyone's children. Everyone belongs to God. Yeah. So this is our dharmic interpretation of what's going on, to make this distinction between the two things. Now, follows from that, of course, is the 5 topics of the Bhagavad Gita. And the core topics are what is Krishna, the Supreme, what is the soul, what is karma, what is material world, the prakriti, and what is time. And by understanding all these 5 elements, you can start to see your life as your own Kurukshetra. But Arjuna says, your own life is about this battle, this simple battle between self-interest of the senses, which have come over many lifetimes, and ultimately to become a bhakta, which is in every action that you do. The aims of that action is to have Krishna at the first priority. So the Bhagavad Gita is, for those 5 topics, is cut into 3 sections, 3 big sections. So the first six chapters are about the core issue of karma yoga, the material world, the soul acting in the material world. Then the secret is in the middle, which is Bhakti yoga. So that's chapters 7 up to chapter 12. And then the rest of the Bhagavad Gita is about Jnana yoga, right? But ultimately, all the yogas are to bring you to Buddhi yoga, which is Bhakti yoga. Right? So, what is often happening with the Bhagavad Gita is people are reading it and going, okay, I understand that I'm supposed to serve God, and I try and serve God, and I try and purify my senses, and so on. But the Bhagavad Gita is already giving you a guidebook in the first 6 chapters of how to get to pure Bhakti yoga. Right? Because you can't immediately turn off the senses. Prabhupada mentions many times. You can't just turn off your senses, because as we understand and learn in chapter 4 and chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, those senses and their proclivities, what they're attracted to, has actually been preset by computer coding in your previous lives. Right? So you can't just go, okay, I'm going to turn it off. You have to realign that coding through the rules that Krishna has given in the Bhagavad Gita. Right? There's no other way to do it, because these are the rules of Supreme. Right? So we have to understand how do we end up here in the first place, to understand what our level is, now we're here, and then how do we get out of here. So we need to understand here and how to get out. What is the runway to get out of here? Right? So the runway summary, this is a conversation. So Bhagavad Gita is best understood as a conversation. And particularly the middle section, which is the real juice of the Bhagavad Gita, is always ending with the last verse of the chapter is, this is the standard, and the first verse of the next chapter is, how do I get to that standard? 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, so on. Yeah? So the questions that Arjuna is asking in those section is the section of elevation to Bhakti. Yeah? So he's saying, well, in chapter 6, Krishna saying, the yogi, the devotee that always thinks of me in all circumstance, understands my transcendental nature, will come back to me. Yeah? So Arjuna in the 7th chapter says, how can a devotee always think of you? Because as soon as they leave the room and you're not there, they're thinking about something else. How do they do that? So chapter 7 is then explaining, this is how you always think of me. Yeah? So he's giving you the answer, and then you just have to imbibe it and practice it and reread it. Yeah? So, but we're not going to get there straight away. It's not like something you can just jump into, right? Because it has to be done systematically, otherwise you don't get the benefit. So we're going to start back to the fundamental principles of how we're here and why we're here. And how do we begin this process of yoga? Yoga means the kingdom of divine. So we can get to this understanding these principles in these middle sections. Okay? So I think one of the best explanations of our arrival on this planet is given by Ramana Devi Dasi, a very senior devotee in Discourse. She was the editor of BT Bhakti Godhead magazine for many years. I had a good opportunity to speak to her last year in London. And she gave a wonderful example. What we have done is, we're all aware of the Ramayana topic, right? And Ravana, he wants to take hold of Sita, right? And take Sita for himself, right? So Sita is, like Radha, is representing the pleasure potency of the Lord, right? The very concept of pleasure doesn't exist without Krishna. He invents that concept for his own pleasure in the spiritual world, right? So we wanted to take pleasure for ourselves without sharing it with God, without recognizing God. Yeah? So we have got this Ravana element in us. We don't want to share pleasure. We want to have pleasure for ourselves. Right? People often ask, for example, why is sex so hated in religion? Everywhere, every religious book you look, whatever religion, sex, watch out for sex, watch this out for sex, sex over there. Prabhupada is obviously mentioning many, many times in all of his literature, sex, 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 warning, warning, warning. Because actually the sex pleasure is the ultimately selfish pleasure. The diametric opposite of pure bhakti is sex. Yeah? In the moment of sexual pleasure, there's no thinking of any God but yourself. It's the most selfish pleasure. Okay? So that takes you away from where you're supposed to be going, which is the purest pleasure. Okay? So the idea of understanding that because you wanted to share the pleasure potency of the Lord, which actually belongs to the Lord, it doesn't belong to you. You didn't want to recognize that. So you came to this material world which is created by Krishna, as he explains in Bhagavad Gita. Right? And the purpose of the material world is twofold, right? Because you're here for many, many births, improving your behavior. So there's two purposes of the material world. It's to refine your intentions, so you eventually surrender to God. And secondly, to reform your conduct. So for many lifetimes, you start giving up this selfish enjoyment, propensity that you've built up. And that comes from the bhakti process. So how do you get to the bhakti process? That's important questions. How can I get involved in this kind of pure bhakti? So it's not just like you go to the temple and automatically suddenly get into pure bhakti. It doesn't work like that, right? Although that is part of the process. Krishna is offering the human being various yogas in chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, which is the contents of the Bhagavad Gita summarized. Yeah? So, and what's happening over chapter 2, the structure of the second chapter, which is a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, is that each time he's offering an argument to Arjuna, Arjuna is going, I'm not convinced. Give me something else. Give me something a bit more. And then again, Arjuna's going, no, I'm not convinced. Give me a bit more. So he's taking him up the rules, like basic rules of improvement to get to that road of Bhakti Yoga. And then in chapter 3 of Karma Yoga, Krishna is describing action, which you have to always do as a human being, because the soul cannot be inert, as Srila Prabhupada says, it has to always act. Right? So which yoga you choose to start improving yourself to get to Bhakti Yoga. Okay? So let's just take a look at the elements in chapter 2. So firstly, the argument is, Arjuna, just fight. It's duty, just fight. You know? Arjuna goes, yeah, I can fight out of duty, but that doesn't get rid of my confusion about why I need to kill these people. He goes, okay. Don't forget, you're the atomic soul. Krishna says, you're the And then Arjuna goes, okay, I understand I'm the soul, but that's not enough. And here Prabhupada begins his first interpretive idea behind his version of Bhagavad Gita, which is very, very important. Right? In the commentaries around 213, 207, 213 and 220 in chapter 2, Prabhupada is making very clear that knowing that you're a soul is not going to get you to the path of bhakti. That's just like a beginning of like entering the building to find where the cake is in the kitchen. Yeah, that's not enough to kind of get you there. And the reason he's doing this is because his treatise is of course about the Mayavadis, those who are impersonalists, who want to enjoy God for themselves as some impersonal conception. And he's making it very clear. They also know that the soul is not the body, but they're not able to come to bhakti. Right? So that idea also, Arjuna is like, oh, well, that's very interesting, but doesn't tell me why I need to fight or why I need to do this or that or the other. Right? So you get to eventually verse 2.54, where Arjuna is going, okay, so how can I control my senses? How can I be neutral? And how can I fight? What is the symptoms of this? Right? And then Krishna is saying, the symptoms of one who is truly understood what I'm going to teach you over the next hour, which is the next 16 chapters, is this. So the last part of the second chapter is your first clue of what you have to aim for. Right? The famous tortoise. No matter what happens, you've got to be a tortoise that goes back into the shell. Good or bad, happiness or distress, somebody dies, someone doesn't die, someone doesn't love you, the mortgage doesn't be paid, the client runs away, the house floods, the mother dies, whatever it is, you must be like a tortoise in the shell. So the amateur reading of the Bhagavad Gita is, I must be like a tortoise in the shell, I must not react to anything around me. It's like this constipated, walking around. Don't get affected, right? But it doesn't work like that, because actually you've got to follow the process in Bhagavad Gita to get to becoming that tortoise, right? So you've got to then go through the rest of the chapters, understand them, and go, now, then you naturally become this tortoise, right? What is the tortoise going in the shell for? The shell represents going back to thinking back about Krishna. Come, withdraw your senses back to me, right? Prabhupada makes clear in that verse. That he's the shelter of the senses. Krishna is the shelter of your senses. Right? So when you get lost, somebody dies, some steals your car, somebody paints your house with graffiti that you don't like, or whatever happens, when you run out of water or whatever it is, you just bring the senses, which is a concoction of the mind, which is a concoction of this body, which is not what you are. You bring it back to Krishna, who's Hare Krishna, the master of the senses. Right? So this is the first step of understanding how to be a tortoise. Yeah? So how do you begin what I call the dematerialization of the body? So the body and the soul are starting to going from merging as a concept in your life, becoming two separate things. You're kind of pulling them apart. If you imagine, you've got a sieve of like lentils, and there's lots of stones in there, and when you buy it raw, it's mixed up. Right? The lentils is your material propensity, and the stones could be, for example, the stones are your material propensity, and the lentils are your true soul, right? And you want to separate those, right? So then you have to go through this process in chapter 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, right? And you can't just go. There are a lot of people, I was one of them, and probably still am. In our society, that want to jump to pure bhakti straight away, but actually, as Prabhupada was, their mind are in sense objects, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It just means you've got to get on the right rule book to get out of that, right? You've got to commit the right process, right? So the processes start like this. Because we have selfish desire, we will normally be in something called Sakama Yoga. Sakama Yoga means pleasure for oneself, but still linked to the divine, right? So anything you're doing, any action you do, it's got a little bit of selfishness, right? So let's take a simple example. This is a common example. You're brushing your teeth in the morning, right? So you're brushing your teeth, you're very clean, and you're thinking about, okay, my teeth look very good. There's this lady I like at work. She's going to see how nice my teeth are, and maybe she'll talk to me. So that's not even yoga. That's not even Sakama Yoga. That's just like looking at my underbody. So that's the two things mixed together. Sakama Yoga is like, okay, I'm going to brush my teeth, and maybe I'll smile at a devotee in a temple, and that devotee might give me some prasadam, right? So that becomes self-interested, but it's linked to Krishna somehow, you see? Because he wants the prasadam too. Yeah? And then there's opposite of Shikama Yoga, which is Nishkama Kama Yoga, which is a yoga of not wanting anything in return, right? And then there's actually Bhakti Yoga. So go back to brushing the teeth. The reason I'm going to brush my teeth is, Krishna, you're going to look at me in about half an hour and I go to Bhagavad. I don't want to, when I smile at you, I don't want my teeth to look rotten, because I'm ready to enjoy worshipping you, and I want to be clean, And so the only reason I'm spending a little extra minute brushing my teeth is because of my love of you, right? So even that very simple act of brushing the teeth in Bhakti Yoga, that's done for Krishna. So that's the difference here. So everything you do every day, they will have these compartmentalizations. I'll have a handout in the next few weeks, and you can see the different yogas and where you are. And there's no shame in like wherever you are, but then you'll see, okay, I need to get to this stage now, and then this stage, this stage. And then what will happen is you'll have what I call the inversion, right? The inversion is very important. So if you imagine I have a plate like this, and then I have a saucer inside it, yeah? And what happens is, for most people, who start Krishna consciousness, the saucer in the middle of the plate represents what they do every day. Look after their kids, look after their bank balance, make sure the car has enough petrol, go shopping, buy some nice clothes, go on holiday, go to the beach. And Krishna, they occasionally go to the temple. So Krishna is on the outside of the plate. It's the periphery, call it peripheral action. And by going through the yoga processes in chapter 3, you're going to invert the plates, right? So what that means is that Krishna is now going to eventually become the center, and all the material stuff is going to be the peripheral stuff, just to kind of simply maintain yourself, right? And that comes from shifting the action of desiring senses for oneself to desiring Krishna's pleasure. Okay? So ultimately, although in chapter 2, do it to fight as a matter of duty, fight because you're a warrior, it's your nature, fight because you're going to get the heavenly planets, fight, all of that is rejected by Arjuna, because in the end, he's fighting out of his free will only for Krishna. It doesn't matter if the Bhagavad Gita had been about cake making, it's not so important, and he'd been a baker. The point was, stop being a baker for your own senses, or to enjoy the parties with your friend for the cakes, but start baking for Krishna. That's the bhakti element of the action. And that is the only way to get you out of prakriti, repeated birth and death. Arbidot, repeated birth, death, and disease. Arbidot. So that is something to bear in mind. And the fact you are here already means that there is some punya, some benefit that you've done in previous lives to even hear the Bhagavad Gita. Like, it doesn't happen to ordinary people. It's something positive has been done, and therefore you're on this journey out of the material world. Right? So that you must encourage that. You must encourage yourself, and you must learn the kind of elements where your mind is going off for selfish sense gratification and reduce those. And you can do an audit. Like sometimes in some of the brahmachari ashram courses, they do an audit of how many times do you think solely of yourself today, and a spreadsheet, and you go, okay, rather than bought this expensive jumper, I just had to get it, and so there were 4 times this week or whatever. And then actually people are, doing the other devotional activities, 9 activities of devotional service, they actually look back 2 years before and they go, oh, I'm not doing that, I'm not buying those expensive jumpers anymore. Like, I don't know why, so your material propensities are reducing through the way you're controlling your actions. That's what you have as a human in the human form of life, the intelligence to control those actions. Okay, so that's the kind of a short introductory précis. It's impossible to capture everything in Bhagavad Gita introduction, in a short space of time. But now we will go into Prakriti, unless there's any questions. And I'll look at verse 3.27, which is the opening of what I call the first key. Okay, okay?
I was going to say something,
just feel free to kind of stick out and speak. There's not 250,000 of us in here yet. Obviously I was getting around some of these things because we have to, normally we do one verse per class or one, 2-3 verses in one go. But we're just trying to get this introductory feeling. Because people come, what we found in Edinburgh, people came at different levels. The first time they come for the first time, and they were going too far, and we had to kind of pitch it in a way that everyone could capture it. It was a challenge, and then over time we've kind of got this level, I think, which works for a range of different people. And then someone wants to go a little more advanced, they can put their hand up and push it. Without that, so it's just not, but don't feel like. I just say to my law students, there's never such thing as a bad question. There's only the kind of wrong context. So just learning the context. Every question is relevant. Krishna consciousness, every question is part of your bhakti, it's part of your devotion. So don't hold back. That's you actively getting closer to Krishna by asking questions. So keep going for that. So I just look at 3.27 because I think this is what I call the cornerstone verses in Bhagavad Gita. So you can have a look at this verse. If you're not familiar with it, it'll be a lot of things. Prakriti, Kirtan, Mani, Gunat, Mani, Sarvasa. Katahami Manyat. What is so thinks he's a doer of action shall be. Have a real think about it. So once you've read it, I'll give you some context around the verse. There are actually some sub-tools that are needed to kind of break this verse down. So I'll throw them, Okay. So, whenever your senses and your action are not done for Krishna, rule number 1, you're under the control of the modes of nature. Right? That's the fact. And you've been, so if you look at, for example, this is really silly, right? Let's look at a hair or an arm. I don't know if you've got hairy arms, if you look at the hairs on your arms, right? Those hairs are pointing that way at that thickness, for that thickness, because of your karmic reaction, karma that's been created by you working in the modes of nature of the previous lives. Okay? So to give you a very simple example. So that includes your physical tendencies and your mental tendencies, because of many lifetimes in the modes of nature. And that comes into this life. If you look at my father, he's I work very hard to get money kind of person, right? It's a very passion. So that will keep him, unless he starts purifying that, will keep him in the modes of nature. Now, this verse alone obviously explains it quite a bit, but you need to see what Krishna thinks, which is in verse 2.45. He says, Nishtray Gunyo Avarajana. Stay above the modes of nature. Don't fall into the modes of nature, Arjuna. Okay? So this is Krishna's standard. Right? So he doesn't want you to be bewildered by being in his modes. Okay? Now this is important from another way as well. Because being in the mode, i.e. not thinking about Krishna, your action and senses, creates karma. Right? It creates karma that binds. Right? And the profundity of the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see from chapter 14, right, is that it creates good karma as well as bad karma. Yeah? And for Krishna, for the devotee, those are equally bad. Right? So good karma, like I do some charity work, right? And then I'll get some, I'll get some benefit, and in a few weeks or a few months, a few years, I'm going to buy a nice big house, a nice flashy car. Right? That causes binding in the material world, which causes you to come back and have more and more bodies in this material world. Right? So it doesn't get you out of that. Right? So, and everything seems comfortable until you get old and can't use the toilet and start getting ill, and then you realize this wasn't such a good idea to be in. Right? So, the person who's not aware of the divine, who doesn't understand there is God, doesn't understand there's Krishna, who's the ultimate master of the senses, right? He's constantly in these modes of nature. Right? And the best way, modern way to look at this is, who knows what a virtual reality headset is? I'm sure everyone knows what it is. Okay? So let's imagine there's a computer game. Okay? You start off the day, you put the VR headset on, and you got 1,000 points, right? And you mustn't get to 0, otherwise you die, right? Now, every time you look at a sense object, or you hear something, you touch something, you eat something, right, depending on what your mind's doing, you get points taken off, right? If it's in the mode of ignorance, you get 100 points taken off. If it's in the mode of passion, 50 points taken off. And if it's the mode of goodness, you get 10 points taken off. And you've got to end the day with as many points as possible. Yeah? But every time it's like, you're supposed to get an extra life in the Batman game or something. So every time you do something for Krishna, you get 200 points back. So you stay alive. Right? So it's a great little computer game. Okay? So you put these headsets, you rush up in the morning, you put the headset on. Because we want to be practical about Bhakti. We want to figure out how we can implement these things in the Bhagavad Gita. So you put the headset on, and you go out, you get on the bus. And you go, well, that's a nice little go. And bing, 100 points down, right? So, physical attraction, right? Maybe a bit of mode of ignorance, depends on mode of passion, right? But if it's, I want to have kids with her because I think my kids will be really rich. She looks really smart, she's really, really complex book, and she's really attractive. That might be a bit of passion, a bit of ignorance. If it's just about sex, just for pleasure, it will go 200 points back. Boom. 1,000 to 800 points, so it's like made ignorant, right? And you see a charity, you walk down the street and go, oh, that's a good charity. There's a girl walking past, look, give them $5 to charity. Right? Bit of mode of goodness, bit of mode of ignorance. You might get 75 points taken off. Yeah? So what Krishna is saying in 2.45 is, don't do that. Because if you keep doing that, right, the problem is, I won't take the virtual reality headset off. You have to keep waking up in the morning and putting it back on. Until you have a day where you not start with 1,000 points, but you're going to end up with 10,000 points. So you're going to actually keep thinking about me and everything you do, right? And you're only going to progress, I'm only going to let you out of the VR headset if you keep accumulating points week on, week out. Right? So that's really what this verse is, from a practical point of view, is trying to get you to think about. Right? So where is the mind going and where the sense is going, right? And when we do the 9 elements of bhakti, hearing, remembering, singing, chanting, we will start to, our propensity to shift automatically, like you get a sportsman who you throw a ball to catch it, that's their propensity. Your propensity will be not to catch that material ball, it'll be to drop it or ignore it. Eventually, no, you won't even move your hands out. Right? That's what you're trying to do through the 9 processes of bhakti when you see a sense object. So that is what's going to get you what's said in verse 2.45, above the modes of nature. Yeah? Just that awareness of, and that's why chanting with the beads is so important, particularly focused chanting, because it's also neurologically important. Put Krishna Hare Krishna movement on one side, it actually increases your ability to control where the mind is going. Right? Any form of meditation. Yeah? Chanting Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful that it displaces the material energy and the modes of nature that are having an impact on you. That's why, in our London course, with our japa courses, we say, the more you chant, the more Kali and the modes of nature stay away from you. right? So you can actually see over 10 years the propensities to kind of do these bad habits. We call them bad habits. Some people it's a way of life, for us it's bad habits. These propensities actually just change. It's not like you actively kind of, Prabhupada says, sellotape yourself to a chair and not do anything. It doesn't work. You've got to change these intuitions. And the way to change these intuitions is that deeper level of chanting, and eventually chanting 10, 12, 15, 16, 20 rounds a day. And that's what's going to keep the modes away from you. Because when you're trying to do this with sincerity, the material nature, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, is under the control of Krishna. So Krishna can already see what you're doing. He's in your heart as a Paramatma, indirectly, and he can see what's going on. So he's going to move the material energy, so it's easier for you not to get sucked in by the modes. So it's like a tango between you and Krishna. You control your senses, you go to Krishna, you get those bonus points, and then you don't get sucked in as well. So actually the computer game gets easier and easier each day. Yeah. So that's a practical way of looking at it. Yeah. So now the popular topic on 3.27 and chapter 14 is, what if I do charity work? This is the question that always comes up. Yeah. What if I go out and help old ladies cross the road and all that sort of stuff? And in some ways there's nothing wrong with day-to-day dharmic activity. Right? But if it's become something from which you seek pleasure, you're now stealing the pleasure potency which belongs to Krishna. That Ravana example I gave at the start. Right? And that's going to suck you into the modes and create karmic reactions. Right? And I think one of the most beautiful bits of commentary in the Bhagavad Gita, I think of verse 14.8, or 14.7, which is on the mode of goodness, where Prabhupada talks about these philanthropists that are going around doing good deeds, that are actually creating more and more karma than they have to enjoy. Right? Good karma, they have to come back and enjoy that good karma. Right? So actually they're not getting out of here, they're not getting onto the runway. You know? They're not staying, as Krishna says 2.45, it's not above the modes of nature. Nishtray, Nishtray, above the modes of nature.
Nishtray, good on the modes.
Yeah, above the modes of nature. So that's quite important to kind of remember that good action as well is a form of sense gratification. And this is done for the Lord. Yeah. So what time is it now?
Time is 7:06.
So I think I'll probably stop here because otherwise it's just getting to huge amounts of other stuff. So I don't know how you found that in terms of pitch or introduction or.
It was really good.
Kind of.
You're so used to like just reading a verse and then just discussing the verse, but it's nice that you pick from different verses and tied it up with the second chapter, the summary contents of the Gita, giving us the basic kind of.
It's like you're creating a new index for us of the Bhagavad Gita with sections.
No, I'm always, I do most of my learning when I'm doing these kind of classes. Because I really kind of go, I'm going to have to go and think about how I do that, how I present that. And that's what I owe much in learning. As Krishna says that, by giving you get. It's difficult in the sense that because just 3 or 4 of these verses in one section are so profound, that it's kind of, you're always going to miss something, some element of something when you're explaining it. It's like, so you have to try and keep it in because you can obviously, we can go into a verse like knowing my pastimes, you'll therefore come to us well again. That's a very complicated concept about Krishna and how to know his pastimes. What does it mean by knowing my pastimes? And that really takes, I used to just drink these things without thinking, and I think that those kind of verses, especially in the midsection, it takes so many years of thinking that you've got to be so careful with them to get it right. And you still, even when you do that, you still struggle to get it right, I think.
It'd be great to, as you can see, Pradeep's recording this, but make yourself a YouTube channel, and I'm not going to sit like that.
I should make a recording, actually. Well, actually, a couple of people did ask me for a recording.
Yeah, so and I think, the way you explain things in your voice, it really lends itself to like a video presentation as well. That can reach even more people. That'd be great.
Thank you. Well, thank you all. Without your mercy, I would not get the mercy of doing this. Your debt for allowing me to explain exploring text and dialogue. in my very limited way. Thank you.
Something I can add.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, I was reading something this morning. The schoolies, there was like some Christian. She wrote like a letter or like a article about Hare Krishnas at schoolies, and she was like saying, these Hare Krishnas, they think like just by chanting and dancing, having a good time, that they're gonna be saved, and then like talking about like, they're so strict, like only sex for procreation, like and like actually I liked it actually. I liked the article. She's like, she mentioned Hare Krishna like 24 times, in the article, like Hare Krishna this, Hare Krishna that.
Couldn't stop thinking about it.
And they're so strict, but in Christianity you have more freedom to just, enjoy with Christ, like yeah.
Enjoy the sausages.
Yeah, and but what was I gonna say? The point was that like, even this lady, she was like, in one sense, she was actually promoting, it was like her service to Krishna, in her own way, under the modes of material nature. It's still the same time, she gave like a positive, like she explained like the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, because she did her studies, and she was saying like, they're vegetarian and they're very strict about sex life and some other things, they're very like strict with their morning meditation and chanting Hare Krishna as their form of like this. And I was like, I like this article, actually from a Christian point of view. Actually, I thought it was pretty good, So everyone is like serving Krishna in some way, even though they don't realize it.
Yeah, the material energy and all the religious, and this is something that I think is often not grasped. All religions are applying Krishna, and they're all part of the reformatory process. And I said that the material, there's two purposes of material energy. One is to refine your intentions, to eventually kick you back to God. And to reform your conduct to be a godly person. And by having love for Allah or Jehovah, it's still bringing that love of God, indirectly, as Krishna says, but then you still get progress. And I think that what people do wrong is to judge horizontally across religions. That's not important. What is important ultimately is developing love of God. Not the strict designation. Although, of course, Krishna is making it clear in the Bhagavad Gita that I am a person, But you have to come to the person when you are ready, when you are not going to commit offences. Krishna loves all living entities. He doesn't want them to come to him and commit offences, so they fall down on him. So this is why these different processes exist, But they're sort of kind of an inefficient way of getting there, of getting to the person, That's why even dealing with deities is a kind of which I've done badly in the past, is a way of, you have to get ready for that. You have to be inoffensive in your approach. Have a deep kind of love, not even just reverence is enough, for that sort of thing. So, I think the point about, people always say, you guys just hang around the streets and just sing. And it's a kind of, sometimes frustrating when people say that, because I don't know if you've seen the film The Matrix, with Keanu Reeves, right? Now imagine we were the guys on the ship out of the Matrix, and we're now back in the Matrix, right? You can't go and tell people, okay, it's the Matrix, come on, surely we want to get out of here, right? Because it's like, I want to go back in, right? The idea of wanting to control is the first problem, right? That's the first problem, because Srila Prabhupada, I think one of the best commentaries of Bhagavad Gita, he's talking about, I think you and I are talking about this the other day actually. It's your natural propensity and your deepest happiness comes from giving pleasure, not taking it.
Oh yeah.
That's your real compass. So your compass is wired completely reverse in this world. It's about me controlling to get my own enjoyment. You know. But if you give pleasure to others, you get a deeper pleasure. And that's what brings you to God. You know. How do I give to other devotees? That's what gets you elevated faster. You know, what can I do for that devotee? What can I do for that devotee? You know, going to the temple and going, okay, everyone's coming with different punya, different levels of previous devotional habits and different lives, you know. So I've got to watch out. That person might be different to me, that person might be closer and better in some ways. And understanding the previous karmas and seeing those different people and going, oh, what can I do for them? Where do they need help? And that's the spirit of Vrindavan. The spirit of Vrindavan is the selfless spirit, you know, of how can I always help others. You know, and that's what then accelerates your bhakti, when you get that mindset. And then it's very easy to control the senses because mastering the senses is on your side. You know, so even like taking you from A to B, if you're driving home, he'll take you away. There's no distracting billboard. He'll take, you know, Krishna will take control. You know, but it depends, as I say, 4.11 proportionality verse. It depends how as each surrender unto me, and they come to me. You know. But you've got to start letting go of the idea of control, because that's what's got you in trouble in the first place. Put you down here on the material world.
There's a beautiful statement, I think it's in Bhagavad Gita, just on that point you were saying. And Prabhupada says the mind should be trained in such a way that it's always thinking of doing good for others. Such a beautiful statement.
Yeah.
And just on the pleasure discussion, I think it's in Perfection of Yoga, which is an introductory book to Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says, and I think I can remember it pretty much word for word. He says, we do not have to give up pleasure, but we have to learn to enjoy it properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then he says, he goes on further, he says, that the living entities are not enjoyers, they're cooperators. And by cooperating, they enjoy.
Absolutely.
So it's interesting. So we don't have to give up pleasure. We just need to enjoy it properly, learn how to enjoy it properly, and by cooperating with the actual enjoyer, then we enjoy. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that if you want to, that's fantastically well put. And I think the way to visualize that is if you imagine, and this is what I tell myself, if you imagine somebody's fanning Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, and their hands are getting tired and they're getting a bit sweaty, and somebody's bringing them water. And the person that's bringing the water is getting tired, and somebody else is having to help the person bringing the water. And the person helping someone bringing the water is also getting tired. They need someone to sit, and so on. You want to be the last person in that queue, helping the person that helps the person, helps the person, helps the person, helps the person doing direct service. You know, that I think is, for me, is the true spirit of Vrindavan. You know, getting to that mindset of like, your greatest mercy is giving service. That's your greatest mercy. But that takes a lot of Saraswati, I just say, get a shoe and hit the mind with it until you kind of get to this point of I want to give mercy. And the pleasure you get from giving mercy, there isn't anything in material about it. You put all the drugs together and create a body that can take those drugs, you still won't get close to it. You know, you wouldn't get it. Because it's not, the soul has to be satisfied, not the body. That's ultimately the point.
There's also one statement in the Gita. It's in the Devotional Service, chapter 12, where it talks about the different gradations of like surrender for the living entity, and then like saying you cannot like completely absorb yourself and work for me. Then I mean like that. Then there is, you can follow the regulative principles, control your mind in order to always think of me. And then like saying if you cannot do that, then you can engage in meditation. You cannot do renunciation is first one actually. Then you cannot do that, then meditation. And if you can do meditation, then just develop knowledge so that you can understand that you should meditate and surrender. You do renunciation. Anyway, even after that, then Krishna says like, even if you just do some charity, then you're developing the sense of renunciation.
Yeah.
It says here actually in this, in verse 11, if you're unable to work in this consciousness of me, then just try to act giving up all results of your work and try to be self-situated. In the purport, Prabhupada, he writes that it is also found that when one is not even interested in the activities of Krishna consciousness, if they give charity to some hospital or to some other social institution, he gives up the hard-earned results of his activities. That is also recommended because by the practice of giving up the fruits of one's activities, one is sure to purify his mind, and gradually in that purified state of mind, one becomes able to understand Krishna consciousness.
Yeah.
Of course, Krishna consciousness is not dependent on any other experience, because Krishna consciousness itself can purify one's mind. But if there is any impediments to accepting Krishna consciousness, one may try to give up the results of his actions. In that respect, social service, community service, national service, sacrifice for one's country may be accepted so that one day one may come to the stage of pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord. So that's like an amazing statement, no? Srila Prabhupada.
Because that the reality is that doesn't necessarily mean in this life you take the risk of being reborn if you go down that road.
Of course, yeah.
The way to that is one of the great tools, actually, giving up the fruits of labours. And the easiest way to look at it is imagine that every day you're working only for money, and a bag of money comes outside your house, and then you're working for the money, and someone keeps taking the bag of money every day. There's nothing you can do about it. What's going to happen is eventually it's going to stop working, if that's what you're doing for pleasure. Right? And what Krishna is trying to bring to you is giving you the benefit of giving him the fruits of your labours, but also through the process, this inclination to catch the ball of the senses, not just the senses, start stopping. You know? And a lot of people can elevate themselves that way by going, okay, well, I've got a paycheck of $7,000, and then you give $1,000 to Krishna. And they actually, because they'll spend $1,000 on a watch or something, but what they're doing is they're taking less time to do sense gratification. Because the money is actually, it's almost like not to say it's an evil, but as a metaphor it's an evil in the sense that you're going to spend it on your own senses, not Krishna's senses. Then it becomes problematic, because then it binds you to the world. So, but then you've got to get to that jnana, you have to have that jnana to go, this doesn't belong to me, everything I have belongs to the Lord. I can't even breathe without Krishna's sanction, it's breathless, sanctioned by Krishna. You have to have that understanding, and therefore, this is the first verse of the Discourse is only take what requires you to understand that everything else belongs to the Lord. And that's the mindset to hit home. Anyway, that's a new topic, but Hare Krishna.
I was thinking, about the time with the Kirtan in town, and then those yogas, the 7-day Adventists.
Kirtan Adelaide. Leave a like and subscribe.